Good morning. I just spoke with Andy Lane, our deacon, and I had him listed as doing Community Matters this week, but there was confusion around that. I think he said he was going to be replaced by somebody else, and I don't have anyone else signed in. So if you'll bear with me, I will attempt to do Community Matters. Let me get my visual here for Community Matters. All right. So these are some announcements from our Community Matters newsletter, and I'll try to share them with you the best I can right now. Talent auction. The talent auction team couldn't be more pleased. The talent auction went incredibly well, surpassed any expectation we had. We exceeded even the very elevated goal for our online-only auction, and got more than $20,000 in from the talent auction. So many thanks from the congregation to the talent auction team of Deb Gerard, Laura Simple, Jen Jacksa, and Rochelle Chambliss, and Sarah Cope. Job incredibly well done. Thank you to all of you who donated talents for the auction and to all of you who bid on the auction. Thank you so much. Great fundraiser. And it's a short Community Matters this week. So I think the other thing I'm seeing in the Community Matters is next week is Flower Communion Sunday. So I have asked you, if you would, to email to me pictures of flowers. If you're in the pictures, so much the better. Email them to me for next week. Service, minister@fculittle.org. Next week is also the last Sunday for our beloved Director for Religious Education, Vicki Merriam. So it's going to be a really special Sunday next week, and I hope you'll be here. Hopefully all of you are figuring out from the email I sent that YouTube Live wasn't working this week. So we're on Facebook Live. You can see this video whether or not you have a Facebook account. It's a publicly available video. So hopefully you have found it. Apologies for the last minute change. I don't know why YouTube Live wasn't working. But that's it for Community Matters, and this would have been a great opportunity for me to use the actual church bell, but it's in my office because I wasn't ready. Too bad. So imagine that beautiful sound of the gong, our singing bowl sound. And Molly will give us our opening hymn.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you on Facebook. Natalie says it's a wonderful world. That's what she's singing. I'd like to start today with singing a hymn together. It is number 1064, and it's in the teal hymnal. It is Blue Boat Home. If you have your hymnal, you can get it out. You can do a quick Google search for the words, or you can sing along with the parts that you know, or hum, or do whatever you'd like to do. I'll go ahead and sing the words. We'll do all three verses, and here we go.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can sing. I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. Wide universe is the ocean I travel, when the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, stars of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on. Great the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
A call to worship, the words of Alex Kapitan. Spirit of the universe, life force that flows on through all beings, power beyond our knowing. We ask you to help us see beyond our dependence on opposites, to transcend our desire to know who is like us and who is not. Open us to the knowledge that in this virtual room, there are complexities and diversities of identities beyond black and white, old and young, woman and man, poor and rich, uneducated and educated, disabled and able-bodied, gay and straight, ill and healthy, wrong and right, broken and whole. In this virtual room, there are people who embody juxtaposition, who can tell stories written on their bodies about both and neither, who carry intimate pieces of the truth that there is no such thing as opposites. Spirit of many names and of no name at all, help us find release from our belief that all things must be either or. This belief that walls us off from one another, ensnaring us in a battle of same versus different. Help us to open our minds, to deeply listen, to truly know one another, finally glimpsing the kaleidoscopic beauty of the divine. Let us worship. This is a chance, if you have a chalice at home, to light the chalice along with me. And let us say, if you wish to say along with me, the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Good morning. We are having another online journey today. Difficulty, no YouTube Live this morning. I hope more and more people are finding their way to the Facebook live stream. I see some of you are there, which is great. Hopefully the others will come along soon enough. A few things I want to say in my welcome. I want to give a few thank yous. I want to thank Chris Ursland, our keeper of the flame, for once again putting together our community matters for us this week and every week, just as a volunteer. It's wonderful. And this week, our normal tech assistant is on a well-deserved vacation from his unpaid tech assistant job here. And filling in very ably, I am happy to thank Hugh Vartanian. So Hugh, thank you for helping us out this morning. And Hugh got to help us out on a morning when the internet and the interwebs, as they say, are not helping us. So he's having an especially fun time of it. So thank you, Hugh. A couple other things I want to share with you. Some good things. One is, I don't know if you noticed this, for those of you who are members of this church or any other Unitarian Universalist church, you ought to receive in the mail UU World magazine. And this is this month's UU World magazine. And it's kind of cool, but if you open up in the very front page, look, do you recognize that sanctuary? That's the picture I took of everybody in all the pictures in our sanctuary in lieu of you. And it's in the UU World magazine. It's also inside on page something like 23, 24. Let's find it in here. 20, you'd think I would know, but technical difficulties kept me from my usual level of preparation. Anyway, inside the magazine, you'll see it as a big spread with another story too. So it's in there twice, which is really cool. I want to thank Pat Hadley for bringing that to my attention originally, so thank you. It's great. Some other good news for us this morning, something to unveil, which is something the deacons have been talking about for a while, as well as the Racial Justice Action Committee. And finally, it has come to pass. So let me share with you, even better. Yeah, there we go. Our new Black Lives Matter banner, a nice upgrade from the old lawn sign. And underneath the rainbow flag, these might be temporary locations, but right now, below the rainbow flag is the transgender pride flag. So we're really excited to add those two things. The deacons kind of pushed to make it happen sooner than later. The standing committee also was in unanimous agreement to do these things. And thank you to the members of RJAC for donating these things. So that's wonderful new addition in front of our church. All right, without further ado, I'd like to turn it over, I can't believe it, for the penultimate Time for All Ages by our DRE, Vicki Merriam. So good morning, Vicki.
Good morning.
Hey.
Nice to see you. You're the only one I can see right now. Yep, here we are, coming down to the last minute practically, but I'm still here for now. Today, our promise, the final one, the seventh one, is the violet. They labeled it violet, and they put the earth in violet colors, even though that's not what it really is. And the promise is value and respect our home, the earth, that we share with all living things. And to help illustrate that in a way, I've asked Rich. Hi, Rich.
Hi.
Only he's not rich anymore. He appears to be sitting on a mountaintop contemplating life because he is a Zen master. Zen masters often speak in a koan, which is kind of like a riddle that makes us think about things. And today we have two koans. First one, how grass and trees become enlightened. A Zen master had studied Zen and Buddhism for 26 years. Because he was so learned, many people came to ask him questions that were often obscure. He allowed only a few to visit, and he seldom answered their questions. One day, a student of enlightenment, of spiritual awareness, asked if even the grass and the trees can become enlightened. This time, the master answered,
Of what use is it to discuss how grass and trees become enlightened? The question should be how you yourself can become so. Go home and think it over.
Ah, very wise. We can only change ourselves. The next one is called A Drop of Water. Another time, the Zen master asked a young student to bring him a pail of water to cool his bath. The student brought the water, and after cooling the bath, poured the water out that was left over just onto the rocky ground there.
You fool! Why didn't you give the rest of the water to the plants? What right have you to waste even a drop of water?
Yes, just don't dump that water out. What good advice. 2 simple ways that we can help take care of our earth. They help us to understand who we must be and what we must change in order to care for the earth. Thank you, Zen Master. A pleasure to join with you. And now I see we have, well, we did have, there you are. Oh, we have Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Lost you. There you are. And I saw, here we are. And there you are. You keep flipping around. Unmute yourself. Okay. Unmute yourself, Nicole. Molly.
Can you say hi?
There. Hi. 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 Say hi.
What did you want? What did you want?
Maddie. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Say hi. Hi. It's so nice to see you. Haven't seen you for a while, Nicole. How are you today?
Oh,
Nicole, how are you? Are you doing good? You're
yeah,
done.
something. Natalie has
That's how long it lasts. And how about you guys? Maddie, how are you?
Good.
Riley?
Good.
Liza?
Good.
What's happening?
Yesterday I was cutting wood.
Wow. With an
With a
axe?
chainsaw.
Chains? Oh my goodness. That's
My
scary.
dad was with me though.
I was pretty sure that would be true. Yeah. Well, what'd you think of a chainsaw?
It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I know. For me, it would be very shaky, shake me up a lot.
And
Maddie?
they had this big pile of wood that they're cutting up, and we got to climb on it. But it's like 6 big, gigantic logs now.
Wow. Wow.
Maybe more.
Just don't let them roll over and knock you down.
Right.
And Liza, how about you? Are you climbing up on the logs too? Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything you would like to share specifically today? No?
What was I saying? More?
Good thing Mom is there to remind you, I guess.
What do you want to say?
No?
Hey guys. Hey Natalie. Hey Riley. Hey Maddie. Hey Eliza.
Hi.
Hey.
I called her Nicole, didn't I? Duh. Natalie.
Natalie.
So Natalie, do you have anything you'd like to share? No?
Told me earlier that she wanted to say thank you for all of the little figures. We've been reading through it and putting them on the paper. She likes them. We haven't planted them yet.
Oh, the little seed embedded
Yes.
symbols that I sent all the kids. Did you get yours finally?
Yeah.
It's coming.
Okay.
I sent them to the wrong address, so they're being forwarded to you.
I got mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got yours. I'll be sending one more little thing probably in a week or so to everybody. The kids, that is, the families.
She likes getting mail.
Can't do it for the whole church. That would be way too much. Anybody else have anything they want to say before we go off?
No. No. But if you're wondering what that noise is, it's our chickens.
Oh, I can't hear them, but are they being very noisy?
Really noisy.
What kind of noise are they making? Just lots of peeps and things? Oh, that. Big chickens, not baby chickens.
They're all going off at different times. So it's really annoying.
Good imitation, Riley.
What do you want to say?
All right, unless somebody else has something else they want to share.
Natalie's hand is up.
Oh, okay, Natalie.
A balloon flying away. That's Natalie's favorite joke, is a balloon flying away.
A balloon flying away. They are funny. And I like to watch them. Anybody else? All right.
Have a good week.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good week. Yep. Bye.
Ow.
All right. So this is the time for our offering. And this week, the offering will go to the good works of First Church Unitarian in Littleton. And if you wish to support the good works of this congregation, you can send a check, if you like, through the mail to First Church Unitarian, 19 Foster Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, 01460. Or you can go to our website, fculittle.org, and up in the upper right corner, you'll see a donate button. So you could donate online, and you could consider, if you wish, paying a little extra to offset the fees for donating online. So thank you very much for your generosity. And while you consider making your morning offering or a pledge payment to the church, we have a great treat for you for the Offertory. Our very own Artemis singers have recorded, while in quarantine, the song for you called The Rhythm of Life. And Hugh will put that on for us in a moment.
When I started down the street last Sunday, feeling high, low, and blind of me, suddenly a voice said, "Go for neighbor, spread the picture on a wider screen." And the voice said, "Neighbor is the million reasons, partially guided home for seasons. In the road, neighborly words that strike, spread the religion of the rhythm of life. For the rhythm of life is a powerful beat, with a tingle in your fingers and a tingle in your feet. Rhythm on the inside, rhythm on the street, and the rhythm of life is a powerful beat. The rhythm of life is a powerful beat. Tingle to fingers and a powerful beat. Rhythm on the inside, tingle in the street, there's a tingle in your feet. Go and spread the gospel in Milwaukee. Take what you have to Rocky Ridge. All the way to Captain and to Scranton. Even till you know to the Captain Bridge. You make a new sensation. And have a growing congregation. Build showing operation. Here we go. With your wings and fly up high. With your wings and fly up high. With your wings and fly up high. Fly, fly, fly up high. You can do it if you try. You can do it if you try. You can do it if you try. Try hard to fly. To feel the rhythm of life. To feel the powerful beat. To feel the tingle in your fingers. To feel the tingle in your feet. To feel the powerful beat. To feel the powerful beat. To feel the tingle in your feet. To feel the tingle in your mind. Tingle in your heart. Tingle in your heart. Tingle in your heart.
So sorry for the technical difficulties. Mike has sharing videos down to a science. I think after all these months, I finally understand it. So we eventually got that one. So sorry for the difficulty there, but great to see it and hear it. Thank you so much to the Artemis singers for doing that. I never heard that song before. It's kind of fun. It's kind of a cool song. Okay, so the reading. I'm going to share a reading with you this morning. And this is a reading by Unitarian Universalist minister, Reverend Theresa Soto, who is the senior minister of First Church of Oakland, California, First Unitarian Church of Oakland, California. And this is their their piece called Your Stories Belong to You. Dear trans, non-binary, genderqueer, and gender-expansive friends and kin, and those of us whose gender is survival, let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. You are not hard to love and respect. Your existence is a blessing. Your pronouns are not a burden or a trial. They are part of your name, just shorter. Someone getting them wrong is not a poor reflection on you. It is not your fault. Your body really and truly belongs to you, no one else. The stories of your body, the names of your body's parts, your body's privacy, the sum of your body's glory. It is not okay for anyone to press their story of you back to the beginning of our liberation. We will find the people ready to be on the freedom for the people way. We will go on. No one can rename you. No one can rename you other. It can't stick as you offer the gift of being and saying who you are. Mostly, though, your stories belong to you. Your joy and complexity are beautiful. However, you may choose to tell it or not to tell it. Some folks, cis, may take their liberty for an unholy license. You are beloved. Please keep to our shared tasks of healing, getting free. Molly will now introduce for you our anthem.
Hello. The choir and I decided that it would be a great song to sing today would be Everything Possible. If you have the hymnal, it's 1019, the teal hymnal. You are more than welcome to sing along as we play this for you. We also have the words up on the screen. But this was a big project. You know, it's a long song and it's a complicated song. And I think it came together pretty well. And I want to thank the choir for their patience with me as we figure out how to record and move forward with doing things remotely like this. But for now, here's the anthem, which can also be a sing-along hymn of Everything Possible.
We've cleared off the table, leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I've told you a story, tucked you in tight, at
So we had two special treats this morning. Thank you so much to the Artemis Singers again, and Carolyn McCrary for doing the wonderful direction of the Artemis Singers. And thank you for that lovely piece by your former minister, Fred Small, sung by the church choir, directed by Molly. And that song always chokes me up a little bit. Sorry for the technical difficulties again, but we're getting there. So this week, as you probably know, we are in the Pride season, LGBTQ Pride. And this particular LGBTQ Pride season, in addition to getting up that transgender flag, I wanted to focus especially on the T, transgender issues. I know that this congregation has had some education over the years about transgender issues, and this isn't really going to be a Transgender 101, which isn't to say we couldn't use a refresher in a Transgender 101 kind of way. And I would love to do that in this coming year. In the 1990s, when this congregation and other congregations who were among the early Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregations, when we and others went through the training and curriculum to be certified as welcoming congregations, there wasn't a whole lot of emphasis on transgender issues. To the extent that there was information about transgender issues, it was focused on what we might now call MTF, male to female, or FTM, female to male transgender persons. So those would be people whose true gender is the opposite of the sex they were assigned at birth. So this would be those cases, for instance, where somebody was assigned male at birth, but knew that never felt right for them, and at some point realized that their true gender was female. A famous person who fits this one version of this experience would be Caitlyn Jenner, who was known most of her life as Bruce Jenner, the celebrated Olympic champion. I think most Unitarian Universalists in welcoming congregations like this one have felt familiar with, to varying degrees, and certainly affirming of this transgender experience for some time now. The opposite scenario as this, someone whose true gender matches the sex they were assigned at birth, is what is known as cisgender. Another word we should know, CIS, cisgender. So that is somebody who was assigned, let's say, female at birth and still relates to having the gender of female. So most people in this congregation are cisgender, and most famous people we could name are cisgender. What we discussed less in the earlier years of the welcoming congregation training was the non-binary experience, which also falls under the larger umbrella of transgender issues. The call to worship I shared earlier, words from Alex Kapitan, and the reading you heard just before the anthem were the words of Theresa Soto, both UU leaders who identify as non-binary. A non-binary gender identity means that the gender binary of either or, male, female, just doesn't fit. Non-binary persons do have a true gender. They don't have a true gender of male or female. That black and white binary breakdown doesn't make sense for who they are. It essentially leaves them unnamed if you just break it down into those two categories, male and female. Non-binary persons often use they, their pronouns for themselves, as Theresa does. And did I accidentally use the pronoun she when I first mentioned her? Them? See, I slipped again. So they, their pronouns. It's very human to have a learning curve for being smooth and saying them, especially if you knew somebody first as she or he pronoun. But Theresa is they, their pronouns for Theresa. And sometimes non-binary people use alternate pronouns, as Alex does. Alex uses ze, zir. Z-E-Z-I-R. There are many other alternate pronouns that non-binary people use or create for themselves. We have talked about preemptive radical inclusion this year. This was a term coined by UU religious educator C.B. Beale. C.B. is also non-binary and also identifies as genderqueer. When C.B. talks about preemptive radical inclusion, they are talking about being proactive in thinking about inclusivity for people in a congregation. So one way to think about preemptive radical inclusion is to think about radical inclusivity as radical hospitality, something I'm sure you've talked about over the years. How can we be radically welcoming to anyone who comes through our doors, whether virtual or analog? That's something we could think more about, especially in consultation with our non-binary friends. A few things we can do for starters. An important one is not to make assumptions about people's gender identity. For that, knowing pronouns is helpful. But it's really not welcoming to walk up to somebody and ask them right away, what are your pronouns? To ask that question out of the blue can feel sort of threatening and put somebody on the spot to come out one way or the other. What might be more welcoming is to say something like, I might meet somebody and say, hi, I'm Lara, the minister here, and I use she, her pronouns. It's good to meet you. And then wait and see if that person wishes to share pronouns. That gives them an opening for the person to share pronouns if they're comfortable doing that. It might make them feel a little safer to do that. Something the deacons have been working on and probably would have introduced by now had we been meeting in person is having stickers available for people to put onto their name tags with chosen pronouns. It would be optional, but the more of us who named our pronouns, whatever they might be, on our name tags, the better in terms of preemptive radical inclusion. On Zoom, where you can enter your name when we're virtually worshiping, you can where your last name is, where you register for your last name. You'll see sometimes I have parentheses, she, her, hers. You can put that into your last name after your last name. And that's sort of like doing an online name tag pronoun. So that might be helpful too. Another thing is to try to break the habit. And these habits are deeply ingrained in our society. So there is a learning curve for all of us, including me, as you see. Try hard to break the habit of using very binary terms like brothers and sisters. You could say instead siblings, friends, neighbors. We often use very binary language when it's not necessary because that's what we're used to. So we might talk about women and men, but that really is not inclusive of the non-binary experience. Think about something else you could say. Try to catch yourself. Instead of saying women and men, you could say people, persons, right? Another thing is to make bathroom signs that are clearly labeled as open to transgender persons, and we have a head start on that here. So those are some very basic steps toward preemptive radical inclusion for non-binary people. Just some basic steps. C.B. Beale wasn't just talking about how to be more welcoming, though. When they coined the term preemptive radical inclusion, they were talking about behaving as though the people in question were already here, assuming, for instance, that non-white people are already here, assuming that disabled people are already here, assuming that transgender, including non-binary people, are already here. And you know what? They are already here. Just because you think you know somebody's race or ability status or their gender doesn't mean you do. These really aren't just hypothetical thought exercises. This is real and it's important. And we should continue to find ways to be preemptively, proactively, radically inclusive. I want to say this morning that the non-binary experience gives us many gifts. One thing is, it helps all of us, cisgender or transgender, to go deeper in thinking about gender issues and our own gender experiences. We can talk about sexual orientation as being on a spectrum. Gender orientation can be thought of as being on a spectrum as well. It probably won't surprise you too much to know that though I do use she, her pronouns, I am pretty close to the non-binary part of the gender spectrum. And it feels good to me to be able to openly acknowledge that and explore that. I'm somewhere between, I suppose, the non-binary and cisgender spot on that spectrum, probably closer to the non-binary end. When I was in elementary school, for instance, we had to dress up for something, I would be taunted, good-naturedly, mind you, with hoax and a dress. Hoax and a dress. That wouldn't make much sense as a taunt if my childhood friends had taken me in as fully cisgender. So there you have it. I always knew I was a different kind of female, well before I was thinking about sexual orientation. And today, I have a better way to begin to think about my gender, and it feels like taking a deep breath after breathing very shallowly for many years. And I'm grateful to my non-binary siblings for this. Also, trying so hard to have a gender binary is often oppressive, even to those persons who are quite cisgender. For instance, why do Happy Meals and things like that offer the choice of a boy toy or a girl toy? Why not just say you can have a toy car or a toy doll baby? Which do you prefer? A cisgender boy might prefer the doll and a cisgender girl might prefer the car. By breaking down the gender binary, everyone gets more liberated. Pink for boys, blue for girls, if that's what they want, right? Enforcing the gender binary is a tool of patriarchal society. That patriarchy, it's a tool. It keeps everyone a little more stuck in conventional roles, and breaking down the gender binary can help everyone to be more free. There's so much more we can say, but I'll close by saying that the non-binary gender experience is divine. For those of you who are theists, it's commonly acknowledged that God is neither male nor female, even if he pronouns, or less commonly she pronouns, are used. God is a they pronoun, if one had to pick. Many world religions and shamanic and indigenous religions also recognize the non-binary nature of the holy. In Hinduism, the avatars of Brahman or God are often intentionally depicted in an androgynous way. For instance, again, in Taoism, it's acknowledged that yin, or what we might think of as the female principle, also contains yang, or what we might think of as the male principle, and vice versa. It's understood that everything flows through the Tao in a never-ending balancing dance. In some Native American traditions, there's the notion of the two-spirit person, or a person of a third or fourth or fifth gender, if you will. There is an acknowledgement that there are more than just two gender categories, and that some people are a combination of what we might think of in our culture as male or female. I could go on, but I do believe that non-binary persons are divine. Transgender persons are divine, and yes, cisgender persons are divine too. As Alex Kapitan put it in our call to worship, Spirit of many names and of no name at all, help us find release from our belief that all things must be either or, this belief that walls us off from one another, ensnaring us in a battle of same versus different. Help us to open our minds to deeply listen and to truly know one another, finally glimpsing the kaleidoscopic beauty of the divine. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. For our benediction, normally we, again, hold hands when we're in person in a circle. This morning, if there's somebody there that you can safely hold hands with, I invite you to do that. If you are alone, I invite you to put your own hands together and feel that warmth. Maybe bring them closer to your heart. Perhaps imagine that we're here together in the sanctuary, holding hands, if you like. And this morning we have the words of our benediction. Friends, you are so much more than either or. You are so much more than forced categories that society has put upon you. You are you, a unique, divine creation. You are a unique expression of the universe, filled with complexity, filled with contradiction, filled with beauty. Never let anyone stop you from realizing everything possible for you. May you have a beautiful, free life experience. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Our postlude today is called June by Peter Tchaikovsky.